China is worried about the next round especially because of reciprocal tariffs, but also semiconductor. Reciprocal tariffs could be very, very high for Vietnam. I'm betting on India not being as exposed as the rest of Asia. But I think what Europe should do is to really unite forces in a way that we've never seen in the past.
China, Japan, and South Korea say they will jointly respond to U.S. tariffs as another round of levies looms. For more on this and what this next stage of the trade war could mean for countries around the world, I'm joined by Alicia Garcia-Herrero. She's the chief economist at the French investment bank Natixis. Alicia, thank you for joining us. You're normally based out of Hong Kong, though you're joining us from the UK today. But let's start in Asia. What concerns are top of mind there regarding this latest round of tariffs?
Well, I mean, China is worried about the next round especially because of reciprocal tariffs, but also semiconductor. So a sectoral tariff that has not yet been imposed. They are, in a way, already quite happy about the auto tariffs because in relative terms, it's helping China sell EVs. But the next ones to come could hurt China further, especially the reciprocal tariffs, indeed.
Zooming out, have these concerns been Asia-wide, or how are countries outside of China thinking about them?
I would say others are even more worried because some have never been, exposed to tariffs, say Japan, and they know they're going to be hit beyond the already existing tariffs on steel and aluminium. So Japan has been hit on autos already, and reciprocal tariffs could be a big thing. This is especially true for Vietnam, I would say, because reciprocal tariffs could be very, very high for Vietnam. And I would argue that the one that is really kind of not sure and fighting against these tariffs is India, with negotiating a bilateral investment agreement with the US. So I guess they might avoid the tariffs by saying, we're in phase one. Maybe they will get a little bit hit, but not as the others. I'm betting on India not being as exposed as the rest of Asia.
I want to pick your brain on some of these exemptions in just a moment, but first let's stay with China because, like we said at the top, China, Japan, and South Korea have said that they want to respond jointly to these tariffs. What do we know about this joint plan so far?
We don't know much, but I think this is a story that, we've heard, say, Canada. I mean, we've heard others, even the European Union, trying to kind of find ways to have more leverage, even at the size of the European Union. So I think for Asia, this is even more important, to kind of respond jointly as a way to gain the leverage that others may have because of size. So yes, this could be a possibility, but frankly, no matter what they've said, I think it will be hard. And also because everybody's struggling, to negotiate with the US, whether it's shale gas imports, so yes, they want to do that, but I think before that they will be negotiating against the clock, really, to avoid the tariffs. So that's, I think, number one strategy. If it doesn't work, they may align forces.
Japan is pushing for an auto exemption, I was reading today, with the prime minister even looking to fly to Washington to try to convince Mr. Trump personally. Are we expecting any exemptions, or what are you planning for?
Yeah, if a country is to be exempted other than the BIT I mentioned for India, that will be Japan. So there is a chance that Japan will be exempted, or at least partially exempted. I think Ishiba is not going to Washington without a sense that he might get something in exchange. Also because of domestic pressure. So I think if he's going there, he must have some information that something will come out. Maybe not fully, as they said, but I don't think Japan will be treated differently.
We spoke about these ideas of countries potentially uniting. You have South Korea, Japan, and China, but you also have, as you mentioned, potentially the European Union and Canada. But Mr. Trump has said that if any of these countries or, blocs unite, that he would bring down even larger tariffs on these countries. How do you see the risk here?
Well, it is a real risk, and if you think about it, China has no interest in collaborating too much with South Korea and Japan because the interests are different. So if auto tariffs come, as was the case only recently, China benefits because they sell EVs. If you have a big reciprocal tariffs, the biggest will be on China, not on South Korea and Japan. So they don't have the same aligned interests here, and I think this is why, in a way, and plus Trump's threat. Yeah. So if you put all of that together, and for the EU, it's mostly that Canada's size doesn't add too much to their strength, to their leverage. So for that reason, I know everybody's talking about this, but I doubt there will be a coalition of opposing countries to Trump. I very much doubt.
We're based here in Europe, and I do want to talk about Europe specifically because the ECB has said that Europe could see a 0.3% hit to its economy this year due to Trump's tariffs. And if there is a retaliation from the European side, that the economy could see a hit of 0.5 point. How big of a deal is a hit like that?
Oh, it is a big deal. And I think this shows already how fragile the European economy is to everything that is happening. I don't think the ECB can really respond. They can't really take this on board alone. I think we need different measures to deal with this problem at the current juncture.
I want to highlight this fragility that you mentioned. Here on screen, we have a look at some of the economies of the US, Euro area, and China. We can see that, at least from last year, that Europe is really flagging. So, Alicia, can Europe afford this fight?
No, Europe can't. But I think what Europe should do is to really unite forces in a way that we've never seen in the past. What I'm trying to say here is that beyond defense, and this is, of course, already a very important point, Europe needs to integrate massively and rapidly. This is, of course, fiscal union. This is full banking union completed. This is capital market union, because all of that is going to be needed. We're going to need not only joint funding, but also integrated capital markets to basically finance not only our defense, but our AI revolution, you name it. It is about time to realize that any country in Europe, no matter how big, is too small for what's going on. And I think that's the only solution. We have, yes, the euro, we have the European Central Bank, but in a way, the European Central Bank is not protected because they can't really cope alone with a non-integrated euro area. So I don't think there's any other way out. And the most unfortunate thing is that we really don't have a legal framework that allows us to do all of this without a major reform of the treaty, which, as everybody knows, will take forever. So we need an immediate response, but we don't have the means for an immediate response, let alone we don't have the path, because this is a very important decision for every European citizen, not to be taken lightly. So I worry we will be too late.
I briefly want to look ahead for a moment. Last month, we saw that China imposed counter tariffs on the U.S. In response to U.S. tariffs. Is there anything else on the table from the Chinese side that we're expecting in this new front in this trade war, or is that side of the ledger maxed out at this point?
Yeah, so Chinese tariffs were only around 15% of total imports, and they were mostly on energy, a little bit of agro products, but they're not very harmful for the US. So I don't think China is yet trying to hurt the US. China is trying to entice the US to the negotiation table. There's a number of things that China can offer, putting less pressure on the US on the BRICS side. I mean, kind of letting the US be on the Western Hemisphere, think about Greenland, think about many things that the US has on the table that China could support. And I think that is a bigger table than Trump 1.0. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about much bigger stuff than tariffs here. And this is why I think China is cleverly, in my view, pausing and waiting for Trump to sit and negotiate much bigger issues to avoid the tariffs and other measures.
One of the things that's jumped out to me as I've been covering this story is the lack of details, even the week that we are expecting the tariffs to be put in place. A lot of it is speculation right now, and we don't have all of the details exactly. Is it that lack of clarity that's really freaking out both central banks and governments, but also companies?
Yeah, you said it so clearly that I can't add much more. Everybody is basically in a foggy, environment where you don't know where you should be heading. And what this means, this is terrible for the global economy because it means nobody's investing. Investment plans are being paused until more clarity is given. I.e., even if nothing happens, no matter what Trump measures might be, the global economy will suffer out of what's happening out of the US and also out of the lack of understanding from the rest of the world as to how long will this last and how big it will be. So investment is the first victim of this situation.
Alicia Garcia-Herrero, Chief Economist at Natixis. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.